Right, lots to talk about tonight. Three big debates coming up. Our special focus on states as well. Let's straight away first kick off with the big debate which is unfolding about whether to use Twitter or not to use Twitter. The government is upset. The Modi regime is extremely upset with Jack Dorsey's platform because Mr. Dorsey created algorithm is unwilling to listen to the wishes and the commands, the diktats of the central government. Over 1,778 Twitter accounts to be precise is what the central government wanted shut down. Twitter has put out a statement. Twitter has put out a statement perhaps in a rather unique move, making it clear that they were not going to act against individuals, against journalists, against political parties. And they've said that transparency, freedom on the internet, choices to make is what this platform is driven by, and they are not going to remove any account, they're not going to block any account. They've said that they've withheld some of the accounts identified in the blocking orders under the country's content policy, but all those accounts, even those that have been blocked only and only in India. Now what that has led to is a full-blown war now between government and Twitter. All top cabinet ministers now have put it out on Twitter that they are moving to a new microblogging platform called Koo. From Piyush Goyal to Ravi Shankar Prasad to a whole host of individuals, everyone is now gravitating towards Koo. It's an Indian app which had won the Atmanirbhar app challenge as well. And the government is exhorting Indian citizens. 3 million downloads of this app in the last few days. The government is exhorting citizens now to start looking at Koo. All statements which are now being put up by the central government are not on Twitter, are being put up on Koo. It's a domestic company. It's a technology company created by a set of Indians, and they believe that they are in a position in which they can take on the reach, the legacy which has been created by Twitter. So what is this about? Is this about trying to figure out whether you can control Twitter? Is this about trying to be on a platform where the center may believe that they are in far greater control? What happened in Capitol Hill and what happened in the national capital on the 26th of January during the Republic Day protests? If what was going on Capitol Hill, if Twitter could suspend the account of Donald Trump for a while, and if Twitter could act against those individuals there, the central government would like to know what is it that's being done by Twitter here. Twitter is saying that those accounts that the central government wanted to be blocked were accounts which were not violating the protocol, the policy, the legal framework which has been created by Twitter. Simple question tonight. Is Twitter guilty of violating Indian laws or not? Nikhil Pahwa, founder Medianama and co-founder Internet Freedoms, Shubhamal Bhattacharjee, another cybersecurity policy expert, both of them live with us. Nikhil, let me begin with you. What do you make out of this war? Is the government justified in saying that Twitter is being unfair against the government?
Well, Bhupen, think of it like an income tax notice. Companies receive income tax notices, there are demands that are made, and companies can refuse to comply with it and go to court to challenge the order. So in the same way that if Twitter believes that the order that they have received is not compliant with Indian law, if they feel that what is being requested of them is effectively unconstitutional, they can go to court and challenge the government, or they can refuse to comply. The government can prosecute them, file essentially Twitter employees can potentially be put in jail for up to 6 years. So the government can begin proceedings and Twitter can challenge it in court. There is recourse available. Look, if you look at what happened with the caravan handle, for example, which was a part of the first order that was issued, the caravan handle didn't do anything that was illegal as such, right? So if there are orders which are given which are not in compliance with the law, then everyone has a right to essentially push back against them. The problem is there is no transparency from the government. We don't know what exactly are these handles that they want blocked, on what grounds each of these the government wants them blocked, and so therefore without transparency there is no accountability. See, even in the Shreya Singhal judgment in 2015, the Supreme Court had very clearly said that there should be an opportunity for the entity whose link or account is being blocked to be heard by a committee in the government.
Right.
So where was the caravan given an opportunity for a hearing?
All right. Manish Shibbar is our consulting editor at India. He's live with us as well, and he looks at government policies and PMO very, very closely. Manish, is this move of all top ministers moving to coup, is it nothing else but just meant as a message to be given to all who are in disagreement with the government, whether you're Twitter or Facebook? I remember when it came to WhatsApp, the government was very upset why WhatsApp is not sharing details with the government, and Ravi Shankar Prasad famously made that comment that I'll drag the WhatsApp CEO to India to appear before the authorities. We've seen what's gone on with Facebook as well, where a similar problem is there. Now with Twitter, is the government at war with platforms in India?
The government seems to be at war with everybody, and my dear friend Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad is like a bull in that proverbial china shop. I don't know. I don't even know, or I don't think even he knows what's the end game here. You cannot go on. Whosoever chooses not to follow your diktats, you threaten them. You threaten to create a new ecosystem. You threaten to create a new platform. In some cases, you go ahead, do those create those platforms, and only to finally realize that it was all about nothing. So, the government of India, what is the purpose of all this? You have a rule of law, you have to follow that. You have issued the notices without even, as Nikhil was saying, and rightly so, that most people, they are not even aware, what is their offense. So, you have to follow the system. And in this case, you have now, you have decided to...
No, but Manish, let me put it the other way. You're saying that, you have a set of recourse, you have potentials. Twitter is an algorithm. Now, the government wants this algorithm to act in a certain way. Does the government have no case here? If the government says that we have proof that some handles at least are spreading fake news, and if it wants Twitter to comply with what is being stated by constitutional authorities in India, does the government have no case here whatsoever?
So the government has every case, but it's a case of government not being making the full disclosure. Let the people also have the right to know. Let's say tomorrow the government tells Twitter to block my handle. So don't I have the right to know under what law, or because of what I have done on Twitter, is the government asking Twitter to block my handle? You have to. The principle of natural justice is applicable on both sides. It is not the government which has the right. The other party also has similar rights, including Twitter. They have every right to not accept if in their opinion they think that the government order is mollified or it is not as per established law.
Right.
So they can.
But where is this headed, Shubhimal? But Shubhimal Bhattacharjee, then do I then say that the government today is so upset with Twitter, the very platform which has played such a big role in building up the brand around the Prime Minister? Are we saying the very same platform today, since the government cannot in some way control it or not get its diktats passed, can Twitter be banned in India, Shubhimal?
See, Bhupen, you have to look at it two ways. I was listening to Nikhil as well as your colleague. Now, one aspect is, you have a law in the country and you enforce it. And the other aspect is, the political dimension, that how much of what is right or what is wrong, or what offends me, what doesn't offend me. If you look at from that legal perspective, where government is issuing this notice to Twitter under section 69A of the IT Act, Twitter is bound to act on it. And if they do not act, then there are provisions, as you are aware, 7 years.
No, how? Please tell me. Are you saying, Shubhimal, if the government, the minister, the concerned ministry, the IT ministry in this case, if the IT ministry tells anyone, any platform, any entity, that I want you to act against these individuals, then is that entity legally bound to act against those individuals because the central government is asking them to act?
Of course, Bhupen, there is a law or there is a system after which the direction goes, and this is not only the whims and fancies of any minister or any particular bureaucrat. There is a designated officer and there are nodal officers in every central government ministry as well as the state government, and there is a process that is followed where the check and balances are taken care of. There is a representative of the Home Ministry, there is a representative of the Information Broadcasting Ministry, there is a representative of CERT, there is a representative of the Law and Justice Ministry, and the particular designated officer, which is from the IT ministry, at the rank of a joint secretary and above, all are joint secretary and above.
But today,
take a call
today
and
the
then
IT
it
ministry,
goes to
today
the
the IT secretary has refused to meet with Twitter, which is why I'm asking Nikhil that on a day when the IT secretary has refused to hold this meeting with Twitter employees and government ministers all moving to coup and asking people to move to coup, is it the end of the road for this bromance which was going on between Twitter and the BJP over a long time?
Well, it looks like it, and Bhupen, I really hope that this case goes to court, and this law, which should have been declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 2015, is finally declared unconstitutional because it is what the Supreme Court said then was that there are certain checks and balances in place. Amongst those means that these blocking orders have to be in consonance with constitutional restrictions on free speech. So if you are blocking if you're asking for a publication's entire account to be blocked, and that is disproportionate, so the requirements regarding necessity, proportionality, documentation, review. If such an action is being taken, it is unconstitutional. So an order that doesn't follow the letter of the law and is debatable needs to be debated in court, and every company has a right to not follow that order. If one account has tweeted one tweet which is problematic, get the tweet blocked.
But then,
they have other speech which is legitimate.
But are we,
the entire account blocked?
But Nikhil, while I support I mean that's the point I'm making. While I support internet freedom, but somewhere if the government believes, and if there is evidence to show that certain accounts were busy maybe spreading fake news. Look at Amit Malviya's case, for instance. He was called out on Twitter when it was discovered that there was some news that he was sharing which was fake. Twitter promptly put that this is fake news, and that tweet was removed. It led to embarrassment of Amit Malviya. Can something like that, is it that because Twitter acted against Amit Malviya then, is the government today hoping to control Twitter, just trying to tame them in a sense?
Look, I'm not going to attribute intentions to the government about whether this is in response to Amit Malviya or not. The fact remains that if there's something illegal, it should be removed. Right? If Twitter feels it isn't illegal, they don't need to remove it. They can question it, they can debate it, they can and they can challenge it.
Right.
And so there needs to be room for challenge. Otherwise, you'll basically have, it can't be a dicta that anything that the government wants to censor, it can censor.
Manish,
there has to be a rule of law in the country.
Manish, the more I'm looking at the way events are unfolding, and while I'm listening to Nikhil and Shubhimal, I'm getting a sense, Manish, that both for Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey, this is going to be a very difficult proposition. Facebook, not on the best of terms. We saw what happened with Aakhi Das and how she was removed. Now Twitter, already the public policy head of Twitter has resigned, and Twitter has put this out in public domain that she had already resigned due to some personal reasons. Facebook and Twitter, two big tech giants. Are we moving in that direction where these two tech giants actually could end up being banned in India? Because they're not on the same page today as the central government.
And shouldn't that worry us? That is my counter question. Are we now, we used to make fun of China and North Korea and all that. So where are we headed to? As everybody is, and I'm sure legal experts are also in consonance, that, principles of natural justice have to work both sides. You cannot have in some cases, and Twitter is equally guilty of that. In some cases, when after 26 January, what happened? So a lot of this, thing about Khalistan and doing another 84 happened. So many people called out to Twitter. They sent messages to Jack also, asking him and Twitter to react. Nothing happened.
All right.
So what I am saying is, when you have selective implementation or selective implementation of laws, then these problems will happen.
Okay.
Unfortunately, what has been happening is that for Twitter, Facebook, and several other these outlets, they have been so selective in following law. Whatever suits them, wherever they think revenue is coming from, they will keep quiet. In other cases, they will try and be a little proactive unless they are pushed beyond a point. So I think now, this is open season for everybody. The government, it senses an opportunity, and you don't know, maybe things will improve, maybe they won't. But what I don't agree with in this is that the manner in which the government is seen as
Being
using
ham-handed.
this as an opportunity to
Being
curb the
ham-handed.
right to expression.
Being
of
ham-handed.
protesting
Maybe
farmers.
that's a criticism which is being mounted against the government. Let's leave it there. Nikhil, Shubhimal and Manish, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us. It's as clear as daylight, folks. Twitter and Facebook are going to find the going tough. How very ironical. For the better part of the last decade, it was the Prime Minister, the same man, Narendra Modi, who was credited for having used social media brilliantly, for having carved out this niche, this new age image for himself. Today, the same person finding it difficult to coexist with those very platforms who may have contributed extensively in building up the brand, the hype around the Prime Minister. That's why when you're dealing with algorithm, it's at the end of the day an algorithm. An algorithm can switch sides, can play all sides at all times. Stepping to a short break, another big debate on the other side of the short break.